All right, before you keep talking to open our show. Oh my god.
Look at her. She has like a guilty face.
All right, welcome to part 2 of our Game of the Year discussions on the Current Gen podcast. I think this is episode 47. Episode 47.
Oof, honor to be here. Great number.
Awesome.
Getting close to a full year of recording this particular show. My name's Tim, here with Dan, Derek, Jeff, and Kyle. Thanks, guys, for coming back after the mega episode last week. You survived.
Yes.
This is you would say this is like our Star Wars episode too, right?
Yes, this is the Attack of the Clones,
Or
Yes,
Attack of the Bad
the
Opinions.
best
Attack of the
movie of the
Clones,
whole
but,
series, obviously.
the best
right?
of the whole series.
Yeah.
Right?
You know,
As long as someone in this conversation at some point says "You're in my very soul," this will count as episode.
Sure, and just kind of stare awkwardly every once in a while. That'd be good. Yeah.
Something about sand.
Something about
It
sand.
gets everywhere.
Yeah, that's right.
It's like
you know Yoda from Attack of the Clones. It's my favorite Superbad quote, and I don't know why.
All right, we do have a couple of news items I want to touch on because it's just been a crazy week yet again with news. So I wanted to give our reactions to that real quick in case some folks don't care about what we think are the best games of last year. Maybe they just want to hear our takes on the current events and then they're going to turn us off. That's fine.
Yeah.
But here are some of the things that jumped out at me. Let's do the exciting stuff first, and then we'll do the kind of weird back and forth news. The exciting stuff was that Capcom aired kind of this video event. I forget what they called it. It was some kind of Resident Evil 8
Resident Evil
Village
showcase.
Showcase, that was the word. Okay, so they're going to show off the game and talk about it a little more. I didn't know we were going to get a release date because I'm shocked that this game is coming out this soon. But so they showed this. They showed a new trailer, which of course showed this gigantic vampire lady that everyone's obsessed with now.
Yeah.
Step
weird.
on me.
Yeah.
Something.
And then they gave the release date, which is May 7th of this year. So that's just
Not soon enough, Tim.
that's just what is that, 3.5 months away, right? So that's not very far away.
Mhm.
It's been like one major Resident Evil game every year, right around that same window of time. It's been interesting that they've done that. RE2, RE3, and now here comes RE8. Game looks really interesting. Derek doesn't believe me that I'll play it, but I did play Resident Evil 7.
I forgot. But you didn't play Resident Evil 2 and 3, so you're trash to me.
I played some of 2 and just didn't love it. But I did.
How do you not love 2?
I'm sorry.
See,
Sorry.
once in a while, when all the
It was-
planets like align and the universe makes sense, Derek and I agree on something. And you're just nonsense, Tim, for not liking Resident Evil 2 remake, and it's disgusting. I'm very upset.
I'm sorry you're upset. I also loved 4. I also loved 4, and so I was bummed out at the news that they all but confirmed that this game is a long way away because they're relaunching parts of it. It says it's like a partial relaunch of their efforts to remake 4 and some new leadership because there was some disagreement internally about what they wanted to do with the remake of 4. To me, that's a much bigger undertaking. No offense to 2 or 3, but 4 was a much bigger, a much different type of game, and so to remake that, I think, is going to take, I don't know, just a different approach. So
I don't know anything about old Resident Evil. What makes it different than the other entries?
It's more survival horror, and it gets more actiony as it goes along, except for 7. It's like kind of reverts back to like
4 was like a huge departure. Like the way you even played it was different.
That's why I
they
like
kind of started the over the camera view thing.
A lot of people got on at 4. You know, I'm old school Resident Evil. I like all the old games.
Little more.
I played all the way up till 4 as they came out.
Even a little more action RPG like in some ways compared to some of the.
Because you're leveling up your gun, or at least you're.
I liked 4.
Crafting it up.
But anyway, they also announced a multiplayer game that's going to be free with RE8, and that's called Resident Evil Reverse.
That looked real choppy.
I have no idea what the hell that is.
I really don't like their spin-off games.
I think it's like Resistance, which is what came with Resident Evil 3, but like a little different.
I never actually tried that. I thought it would be cool, but then I just didn't try it.
Yeah. So a bunch of Resident Evil news this week. Some good, some bad. Actually, I would say some great. The May 7th release date is fantastic, especially for Resident Evil fans. But then, of course, the RE4 news of they thought it might come at the end of this year, maybe early next year, and now they're saying 2023 at the earliest.
I mean, they've been pretty consistent with these releases since RE2 remake. So I mean,
give them a break, I guess, at least once, I guess.
Yeah.
Well, 2023 means it would not be consistent anymore. So some of the thoughts were maybe it'll hit holiday, but maybe spring, just like all these other ones, spring 2022. And now they're saying nope, 2023 at the earliest.
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, also fun fact: Resident Evil Village was supposed to be Resident Evil Revelations 3, so they actually had converted it to like a mainline Resident Evil. So.
I've been loving the newer ones, and like I said, I never played the originals, so I'm playing the remakes, and that's like my first experience with the series. So I'm enjoying those.
The first one's coming to, I think, Xbox Gold.
It is. Yeah, that's one of our
GameCube
items. So you might as well just play it.
Yeah, that's true.
Another piece of news, just kind of a highlight I thought I'd mention. I think it's the first notable release of 2021, and that's Hitman 3, and it's been getting great scores across most outlets. It's got an average of 88 on PC right now, down to the mid and low 80s on consoles. But yeah, it is, and I can attest because I bought it, and I think Jeff, you've been playing it a little bit too.
Yes, yeah.
I am in the 5th mission area, and I freaking love this game. I love the whole series. I always have. So, loved Hitman 1 and 2. I didn't really love the episodic release of Episode 1, but I got over it. I just bought the quote-unquote season pass and just treated it like a full game. 2 was much better because they just released the entire game all at once. And 3, if you own those other 2 and you're playing on the same platform, you can, with your IOI account, they have an online account you can create now, sync up your progress, and bring the actual missions into Hitman 3. So you can now play them in the Hitman 3 game, which is really interesting. You can go back and play those areas. If you don't own it, you can go into their in-game store, depending on what device you're on, and you can buy those games and add those. So if you don't feel like you missed out. Like I want to play it on PC, so I bought it on Epic Game Store. Hitman 1 Gold Edition came for free with an offer they had. So I've got all the Hitman 1 missions, all the Hitman 3 missions, and for $20, I got the 10 Hitman 2 missions, which are the main ones and the DLC ones that they put out.
So they're not just included, because I was kind of like, oh man, I missed it, because I bought
Again,
Hitman
it depends
2.
on what platform. Hitman 1 is included on PC.
Oh, okay.
It is, yeah.
But
Because I bought the...
unless you own it. If you already own it, I think they are there for you, I think.
Okay.
If you already
Well, that's why I was like, oh man, I just bought it on sale, Hitman 2 on sale like a few weeks ago. So I was like, oh, but then if I'm going to get Hitman 3 eventually, am I double paying? But
No, you'll just have the ability to play those.
just get Hitman 3 on the same platform and you'll be able to.
Yeah, exactly. Stick to the same platform.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, but in any case, I do think more so than I can remember enjoying story of Hitman in the past, I can tell you that the story is fantastic. I love the twists that this story has already taken in 3 as they're kind of wrapping up this trilogy, and it really is a trilogy. It kind of flows as one connected story, which is really cool. Yeah. So
they kept the same origin story from like the original series too, which that's like big respect for like old school fan like me. So
I didn't know that. I never played the.
Yeah, it's all about clones and stuff. Yeah, it's cool stuff.
Yeah, Hitman 2, Silent Assassin from back in the, I want to say early 2000s. It could have been late 90s. I forget when that one came out.
PS2
but
Xbox days.
Yeah, so early 2000s, I think. But I really liked that game a lot.
Me too,
And the story it told, kind of the twist, had a little bit of that, like Kyle was mentioning, cloning story was really interesting. But anyway, go check it out if you haven't yet, or just wait for sale. This is the kind of game that will be on sale if you're not really into it. You can wait, but
I think the year of 2020 being filled with games you can go stealth on if you want to, prepared me for Hitman 3, because normally I just don't play Hitman games because I'm like, not being able to go in and just shoot them all up tests my patience. But because I've had so much stealth practice in 2020, I was ready, to scope out a place for 15, 20 minutes before I even decide what to do.
It is pretty entertaining, though. A lot of the dialogue's really entertaining, really well done.
Yeah.
The second mission area is basically a Knives Out style murder mystery.
I just wrapped that up maybe like an hour ago. It was amazing.
Yeah, really fun. They give you lots of options too, because I looked for every clue I could find in the house, and I had 2 options. I could either accuse the correct person, or I could frame somebody, just depending on which direction I wanted to go. It's just really cool the way that
That's awesome.
So many options.
Give you those
and I love that. By the way, IOI is a bad guy company in Ready Player One. I think that's funny. But
That's true.
IOI, they're doing the Bond. The next Bond game.
I was literally about to say,
and this just made me more pumped for it.
Me too.
It's gonna be an awesome.
By the way, the action when you do start shooting isn't bad. They've really improved their gunplay. It's just not as good as gun-centric games, but I think this is a cool way to wrap up this franchise for now. I think we'll see more Hitman in the future. I just think they might take a break for a while and focus on Bond stuff, which is cool.
That could cool.
All right, well, moving on real quick. We'll just touch on this briefly because it's a non-story. Microsoft increased the price of their Xbox Live Gold service.
Yeah, that's right.
And so their monthly price for 10 years has been $10 a month, and they increased that to $11 a month. That's really the increase. What they used to do is they used to offer a discounted rate for 6 months and for 12 months. I think 3, 6, and 12. You could get incremental discounts. If you bought a full year, you got it for 60, which is basically buy 6 months, get 6 months free. I mean, it's an amazing deal. And so, but that's how they've had it set up for 10 years. So folks, and I'm one of them, get used to it. So I totally understand when they decide that's not good enough. We need to get rid of that discounted rate. Folks then put up all these headlines saying, they've doubled the price. I'm like, okay, technically, I guess you could say that, because if you used to pay 60 every year, now you're paying 120. Yeah, I get that. That makes sense that you would say they're doubling it for you. But it is a discounted rate that they're removing. So it's a two-edged sword. I totally get it. It's a bummer to have the price go up. So I was kind of on the side of like, hey, everyone chill out. It's fine. They removed their discount. And that sucks. And they should have maybe just lowered the percentage of the discount, maybe made it $80 or something. They should have made some incremental steps here. But I thought people were overreacting. And then because of the overreactions, Microsoft was like, never mind.
Yeah, it's not worth it. Whatever.
We'll go back to the old thing, and we'll also remove the requirement for gold for free-to-play games, which I never knew about because I don't play garbage. But
yeah, I didn't know that either.
You really do, though. You play a lot of garbage.
But apparently, you had to have gold to play free-to-play games even online, which is dumb. And so that is
dumb.
That's a good change that they made. All right, we'll move on past that because that's no longer a story. It's back to normal. So, lastly, Derek mentioned one of these, but games with gold for February are Gears 5, Resident Evil, the original, Dandara, Indiana Jones, and The Emperor's Tomb, which is that OG Xbox game, which is, I think, timed out well with the recent announcement from Machine Games, and Lost Planet 2. So throughout the month of February, you'll have access to a variety of those.
All
right. Let's jump right into our categories. We've got a lot to talk about, so hopefully you guys have some of your lists ready. We'll get it started, get us warmed up a little bit with some of your pick your own categories. No debate, no ranking going on for these. So the first two have to do with games that released before 2020.
Remember that? Remember before 2020?
I don't. Yeah,
we were all
had to go back and look.
Remember that?
We were all so innocent.
Yeah, we really were. We had no idea.
I mean,
I had no opinions on real life things.
So we're going to first talk about the best old game that you played for the first time. This is a bit of a selfish category because I've tried out a bunch of games this past year that I had skipped previous years, and I just wanted to talk about a couple of them. So it was kind of a selfish category.
Yeah. I'm glad you brought it up because I would have been like at the end of the last episode, I would have been like, well, I don't get to talk about this because it's an old game, but
so folks who loved whether it's
Life Hack
5 or the Mario 3D All-Stars games that came out or whatever else, this would be their chance, those games' chance to shine. But I'll give you some of mine first while you guys, if you don't have your lists ready, you can write them up real quick, or if you do, you can get them ready. But for me personally, my favorite game this year in the past year that I've played for the first time that I hadn't played when it came out was Death Stranding. Really enjoyed that.
I did not, man. I didn't expect that from you.
Yeah. Wow.
So this was just a fun game. No, this was a fun game to make fun of in 2019 because I didn't play it. I was only going off secondhand knowledge, and I admitted this much. Like, hey, I'm not going to fight against this one, but it looks like a walking simulator. Now, I've played a bunch of it. I can concur that, yes, a lot of it is being a walking simulator, but there's a lot more to it. I also just love the style of this game. It's gorgeous. I'm playing on PC. It looks so good, and the style is just really great. It's very Kojima in every aspect. The music, the costumes, the environments, all of it. It's very Kojima, and so I'm enjoying it and all its wackiness, and it really is wacky.
That warms my heart to hear that.
I'm awesome. Kind of glad though, even though it's my favorite old game that I've played in this past year. I'm not upset that it didn't win Best of 2019, but I probably would have given it maybe top 3, 4, something in that range for me personally. So far, I haven't finished it, but I still think stuff like Control and Outer Worlds and Fallen Order were better, but I like it a lot. I do like it a lot. A quick few other games that I'll mention, and then I'll move on to one of you guys. Ni no Kuni, Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition, Shovel Knight King of Cards, Frostpunk is an awesome strategy game if you haven't played it, and Alan Wake. Finally played Alan Wake.
Game.
Whoa.
Yeah, wonderful.
Yeah.
Game.
I still have to jump into that.
Which Ni no Kuni, Tim?
The first one. Playing on Switch.
That's the right one. Good.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, the right one. Exactly.
Yeah, I put a lot of time into it when our family went up to a cabin this summer for vacation, and that was kind of my primary game.
Such a jolly game. Oh,
really,
gosh.
Really, really happy little RPG.
Yeah.
So I'll also just mention the Legacy of the First Blade DLC for Assassin's Creed Odyssey. It's not a full game, but kind of is. If you play it, you'll see what I mean. It's just so much content. Fantastic DLC series there, too. Anybody else? You guys want to highlight some stuff that you've played for the first time in 2020 that came out before 2020? Go for it.
I mean, I have 2 jotted down. I'll give a shout out to Planet Coaster. I've brought that up a couple times.
Yeah. Yep.
I'm still plugging away at that Christmas park that I'm making. And I'm definitely, so as I've been playing it, it's definitely I've gotten like more comfortable with it as far as like the controls and kind of what I'm doing. I've still really barely scratched the surface as far as like what I've made. But it's super fun. I don't know if Kyle or Jeff, you know what it is at all, but it's kind of like
roller coaster. Yeah,
yeah,
like
like
Roller Coaster Tycoon.
Tycoon, yeah.
But I haven't played like any newer Roller Coaster Tycoon, so I don't know how detailed those are. But this one's like super detailed and meticulous. Like,
Okay.
essentially, there is pre-made assets that you can kind of drop down and everything, but then there's also like individual pieces that you can make your own custom buildings and like.
Oh wow.
Like say you made like an archway over the entrance to a ride, like you can sort of like attach things to it and kind of like shift where it is, like the placement of it, like it's that specific. So
it's like a better Roller Coaster Tycoon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Way more in depth, it seems like.
It's super fun. It's really cool. And it's actually a pretty decent looking game too. So yeah, that I'm having a lot of fun with that. But the main one is Dead by Daylight.
Oh yeah,
that's
I remember
like
that.
a 4-year-old game, and it's
Yeah.
pretty much I'll sit there and because my wife like just loves watching me play it. Like it's basically her favorite game that she doesn't play.
That was a hit. That was a hit with streamers for a reason. Yeah.
Yeah.
Everybody loved watching that game.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's about 4 years old, I think, or maybe a little over 4.
Still
4
getting
years,
new content, right? Like all the time.
Yeah. So that's really fun. I still want to like get a group of us together to play that because that would be really fun. So
Well,
Not
if
gonna
we
happen.
could somehow,
I'd be all about that.
if
I'll
we
bet
could
there's-
somehow not have a 3-hour show tonight, we could probably do it after we record. But that's just
all right,
not
let's.
gonna happen.
All right. So game of the year was Final Fantasy. All right, let's go. Come on. Let's go.
Kyle, what about you? Anything from previous?
Yeah, I picked up and played like about 30 hours of Kingdoms of Amalur and just loved it. I just loved every second of it. Couldn't believe I skipped out on this one when it came out. And I followed everything about it closely and just still was like, when it came out, I was like, yeah, I'm busy.
And I heard that's coming to Switch this year.
It is, yeah, which is I stopped playing my PS4 version of it so I could play it there because I'll actually beat it there because I have my Switch with me everywhere. So
And that's when I started seeing everyone just talking about like, isn't it the best to play this huge open world RPG while you're taking a dump? Isn't
yeah,
it just
that's right.
the best?
Pooping and gaming, man.
Role playing dumps. The best.
So yeah, that's
great.
the one, and Mafia 1, the remake.
Yeah.
Super
sure.
great. I was like, this gem came out in like 2000 or 2001. Like, and
Yeah.
the story I heard didn't change much. Like, it's pretty much how it was.
So that was the first time you had played it, huh?
Yeah. I played 2 and 3 as they came out, but I never had played 1.
Okay.
One blew me away. Absolutely love the story in that game.
I just played Kingdoms this past week because you guys were talking about it in the last episode, and
Great combat.
yeah, man, it's really great. I mean, but I touched so many games in the last week. I diddled so many games. I fondled so many games
Wow.
last week.
You got your
Kingdoms
fingers
is
all
great.
up in many games.
Wow.
Kingdoms was one that like one of the like 5 or 6 that kind of blew me away a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
New
Anything
DLC
DLC coming out this year? New
Anything
DLC?
else, Jeff, from pre-2020 that you played?
Dude, I mean, I played so much.
Just give us-
2020
just
created
give
so many
us,
opportunities.
Just give us a quick
Rattle
just
them
give-
off.
Name 3 or 4.
I played like 10 hours of Horizon Zero Dawn, and then something else came out. I don't remember what it was.
Oh,
but
so you
something
had
else
skipped
came out.
Horizon before that?
Yeah, I skipped it
Oh, okay.
because Derek liked it so much. So I was like, okay, well, I'm not going to like this game. I'm just kidding.
Okay,
It's good.
that's fair.
It's good. It's a good game. Last of Us Remastered. Finally beat that first time, right before second one came
Oh,
out.
really?
Like literally the week the second one came out, I beat this one.
Yeah.
I put more time into Mad Max. Oh, last year's Plague Tale, I only played a little bit of it.
Damn.
Yeah.
And I beat that, and that game's amazing. Hold on.
Very dark.
Probably my favorite one is Return of the Obra Dinn. Yeah, it's a great game. I can't remember.
Is that the stencil drawing looking one?
Kind of, yeah. But you can like change the graphics to look like a different model of a PC around the 80s or whatever.
Okay.
But that's where you're like some type of investigator that has like this tool that can recreate a scene of a crime or whatever on a ship.
Oh,
And
dang.
you're trying to figure out on this ship, the Obra Dinn, like what happened to all the crewmates, because there were like 60 crewmates, and you have to figure out what happened to every single one of them.
Well,
And it
that's
sounds
fun.
like a large undertaking, but sometimes you'll identify people after, like, you'll identify 5 people after like recreating 5 scenes or whatever.
That's cool.
Yeah, man, that's a really cool game. It's got
Sorry
a
about that
good-
noise, by the way. The loudest car ever just drove by my house. Sorry about
I thought you farted.
that. That's what it sounds like.
And a last one I wanted to mention to leave a good taste in everybody's mouth is Hellblade. I really like that game.
Hey,
For it.
Actually, Derek.
You are not leaving a good taste in my mouth.
I know.
So Jeff, does that if you played through Hellblade this past year, are you now like excited to play whenever the sequel comes out? Because they've gone
Yeah.
quiet on the sequel since they announced it, but I'm hoping this year.
I'm hoping this year too, but you never know. Yeah, I'm very excited for it now, and I played it like they said at the beginning, like you better play with headphones. So I did, and man, that's a really creepy vibe.
It's
Yeah.
a creepy vibe, but also very easy to see why I forget her name won Best Actress, in the Game Awards.
Yeah.
She was great. She was
Yeah,
great.
very
So
deserving.
well. Yeah.
Cool. Derek, any games that you played in 2020 that you hadn't played before, but they came out, before last year?
I mean, I played them, but I'm just gonna mention them because like I either beat them or they stood out more. Sekiro is probably my favorite.
I played a little bit of that. Yeah.
Yeah, I beat it on PC by cheating, and then I went and played it legit on Xbox and got all the way to the end boss battle, which is really the ending I'm doing. It's 2 bosses back to back that I have not beat yet, but
It's very hard.
but I got like pretty obsessed with it, and just I don't know, it kind of hooked me where I was like, I have to beat these bosses, and it was once it clicked, I started going through them a lot faster. And I was like, you know what? And I'm not saying this game isn't hard. I still think it's the hardest Soulsborne type game. It is, but I think once you finally get like all the changes they made, it does become a hell of a lot easier. And there is a lot of cheeses. Like you can go on YouTube and be like, how do I beat this boss without it pissing me off? And there are people that have figured out ways to beat almost every boss in a cheesy way. I legit fought all my bosses, but I'm just saying there are ways to cheese most
That's a
of them.
tough game to jump back into if you haven't played in a while. Because after you and Dan talked about it, because I think you guys both beat it this past year.
Yeah.
And so I was like, I did really like that. Let me go back and try it. And I'm right around that Madam Butterfly area.
Sure.
And I was just like, dude, I need to build up to this because I went to fight her like 3 times in a row. And I was like, I don't remember this enough to do
Well,
that.
like hopping back in right at a boss battle in that game, it's like, come on,
Well,
like,
because that's where you most of the time you leave off out of frustration. Like when I jump
Sure.
back into my Xbox playthrough, what got me to play it is it wasn't Dan. Like Dan had talked about beating it, but at that time that he had talked about beating it, I was kind of like over it. I had put in 25 hours. I'd beaten like 3 bosses and a bunch of mini bosses, like 11 or 12 of them. So I had felt like I was like, you know what, I did the best I could. But what it got me back into is I was actually watching this show called Retry by a bunch of guys. I think they used to be on GameSpot when GameSpot was actually okay. But they're like British and they're hilarious. So I just kept watching them, and it was just one of them playing while the other 2 basically support him. But they're all funny, and I'm watching him fail, and I'm just like, okay, he's making me want to play this. So then I went back and I picked up where I left off on the Xbox, which was Genichiro, which is that boss. You watch any video on it, most people that have played the game will say, when you get to Genichiro, so all the bosses before Genichiro are kind of like, they're beatable. Genichiro is the one boss that teaches you the way Sekiro is supposed to be played. And if you do not adjust to it, you will never beat him. And so that was the boss that kind of taught me to set me up for the other ones that I beat. But anyways, so Sekiro is the one that stuck out the most. Mainly, like I said, I had already loved it, but the fact that I was able to cheese beat it on PC, then go back and get all the way to the end boss on Xbox legit, and then I started a second playthrough on PC, non-cheese, just playing it legit, and I'm like halfway through it. Nice. And then I'll just mention them. We won't talk about them. I beat Demon's Souls and Resident Evil 2 Remake. I replayed in 2020. Nice. So those are my stick-out old games.
Well, that's actually a good transition into real quick. Any of your favorite games that you replayed? So those are some that Derek did. I'll mention. I also played Last of Us Remastered. Actually, Derek, Dan, and I did like a book club just before Last of Us Part 2 came out, where we replayed through it and did kind of a spoiler cast of the first Last of Us game. We should actually do a spoiler cast of Last of Us Part 2. Maybe.
Have you not done that yet?
I think we should do. Well,
another book club style where we play through it again and talk about each section again.
Oh, let's do it when they update it for PS5.
Yeah.
Because that's what I'm going to do my third playthrough.
I'm with you, Kyle. Mafia was one of my favorite games. Old games that they brought back out this year. That was one of my favorite replays. Star Wars: The Old Republic hooked me again when I got my PC. I kind of fired that old. Now it's a free to play.
I want to play that game every day of my life, and I have no PC to play it on. So
yeah, it was just such a blast. I jumped back in and finished another storyline of another class. That's just so much. That's
so good.
I know it got bashed by a lot of folks, but I think it's one of BioWare's best. Sorry.
Same here. I think it's amazing. Yeah.
I think it's fantastic. Anybody else? Anything you want to mention before we get into combat? What's one of your favorites that you replayed?
Yeah, I replayed both Uncharted 4 and Lost Legacy, and man, those games just floor me. I love those games so much. And then after I played Miles Morales, I started Spider-Man again.
Nice.
And I prefer his old face.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't as disorienting for me playing Miles Morales, but I mean, I get it. I do get it. Yeah.
It looks 16 in the new one. It's whatever. It's fine.
I jacked 16, but
So I'm gonna shout out real quick Mass Effect 3. I went back to it for my fifth playthrough, and Dragon Age Inquisitions because it's goaty.
Hell yeah!
Every year.
It's no Fallen Order, but you know.
Hell yeah, brother.
Freitas, what about you? Anything you
replayed? Only time I like Freitas.
I just because Derek actually said he was going to. I don't know if he did or not, but I started replaying 7 Remake because I finally finished Valhalla. So
okay,
nice.
Yeah.
Isn't that weird that there's no? Did you get credits to roll? I didn't really get credits to roll.
Yeah, so I have feelings about Valhalla. Some pretty aggressive feelings.
Yeah, feelings.
You know what? Let's talk about it in our best third-party game.
Feelings. Ooh, I feel things.
So what? You're gonna be like Derek now? You're just gonna make fun of me that I'm human? That's
that's because Jeff and I have like a private like chat, and we're now PC Master Race BFFs. So once you become PC Master Race BFFs, you join. You become an alliance.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. You guys jerk each other off privately. That's
all right. Pulling this back in together.
Amen, brother.
So inappropriate.
That you replayed in 2020.
Yeah, I replayed through Metal Gear Solid 4. I try and go back to that game every year, but it's been a few years for me.
It's the one Metal Gear game that I never played.
Well, you watch it more than you play it.
You don't actually play it.
You watch it more than you play it. But
I just need to watch it on YouTube. Then.
It's the culmination. You know, it's the culmination, the true one. You know, the
Aren't
real
they
one.
Supposed to do this one for PS5? Like
I don't know. I really don't know. It's been entombed on PS3 forever. So
Konami doesn't make video games anymore.
Yeah.
So
they'll just put Solid Snake's face on a pachinko coin thing, and then
laugh.
But that was my big one. I that's the only one I really went back to, man.
All right, well, I'm going to share my screen as we jump into our first category where we have to debate a list here.
I don't have to listen to everybody else.
I'm going to preemptively tell you you're all wrong. So.
All right.
I really came in feeling right. That's strange.
Well, this one's combat, though. So this one, I mean, there's like 2 games or 3 games you guys should really be standing for, and that's it. Otherwise, it's inexcusable.
Okay.
So this is an interesting one. We're going to talk about best combat. Video game combat, okay, not real fighting, of 2020. And
thanks for pointing that out.
Yeah, no problem. That. I got you covered.
Best bum fights. All right.
You know what's interesting is with this game, with this category for games. So many games have such different styles of combat. Like right now, I'm playing through Yakuza Like a Dragon, and that combat is extremely different than Assassin's Creed, which is extremely different from Gears Tactics. And so I know this is a weird way to rank combat. We're just have to go with our gut. Like, what was the most fun or intricate? Like, you have to make a case for the combat system being good. That's all.
The combat systems are going to be different, but I mean, one game might do that combat system better than what the other one's doing for that system. So
that's what I would encourage us to think of it as, for what they're trying to do.
Yeah.
How do they execute on it? And let's try to rank them that way. But we'll see how we do.
Yeah, it's gonna be tough. Yeah, but
let me zoom in a little bit. But I'll enhance a little bit, but just like with some of the other lists, these lists are just huge.
Yeah.
So
that's what she said.
Huge.
She said the list was huge? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
You got some weird, sexy conversations, I guess. So I'm going to go ahead and nominate one first just to get us rolling. And it's just because I'm playing it right now, I do think it needs to be in consideration because it is a great combat system. That's Yakuza Like a Dragon.
Yes. Yep. That is the correct choice.
Yeah,
that's offended.
Let's get the bad ones out of the way first. Yeah.
Dude, it's just my pick to move on to round one. Let's go.
That's fine. That's
Dan,
fine.
what about you?
It'll leave soon.
Let's go to Dan.
It's
7 remake. 7 remake.
What a shocker.
All right.
Yeah, sure.
We're really starting this off what I consider top-notch combat.
All right, Teague, show us a top-notch one. You pick one.
Ghost of Tsushima.
Yes.
Oh my God, what are we doing?
I mean, that is an excellent choice.
I'm just kidding.
We're not going in order yet. Everyone, chill pill. Jeff?
What are we doing? Miles Morales.
Okay.
Yes.
And Kyle?
I'm gonna say Cyberpunk.
Oh my God.
Okay.
Got some feelings about that.
I do too. It's not one of my favorite combat systems this year, but we'll get to it. I want to move Assassin's Creed Valhalla over.
Okay.
I don't think it's going to be near the top. It might not even make the list, but I still think it's worth talking about. Dan, what about you?
Jeez.
Oh boy.
Genshin Impact.
Okay.
I'm not mad at that, actually. I played some last week.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I was playing some of it a little bit this weekend.
I was very surprised at how much I enjoyed my time with it.
Yeah, it's fun. You know, it's also cool, by the way, side note, it's one of the only games I've ever played where you can then jump over and continue your progress on your phone.
What?
Yeah.
I'm never going to do that, but that's so cool.
They're about to controller support there too, which is just amazing. So anyway, Derek.
I'm going to do 2 of them. The Last of Us 2 and Immortals.
Thank you for Last of Us 2.
Those are 2 that I would put over there. Yep.
It's funny. So many people say that just The Last of Us combat is like not good at all, and I'm like, you're insane. It's like it's actually a pretty common. It's a pretty common thing, but like it's like I don't understand. Like
I do think it's fair to say the combat in Last of Us Part 1 needed some tweaking, and Last of Us Part 2. Sure. Last of Us Part 2, they almost perfected it. So I do. It's a good pick.
Yeah, it's some tweaking, but overall, for how old that game was, I thought it was super fun to play. A lot of people just were like, "It's not fun to play." And I'm
I didn't think
you're not doing it right.
Yeah.
I love it.
I think the second game is a lot. Feels better.
Oh, it's definitely clean. Yeah. They cleaned up the melee combat and stuff.
Time.
Jeff, what should we move over?
Well, this might be not a good call, but it's the first round. So I had so much fun playing as different characters in Avengers. So I'm gonna try.
Oh, what the hell?
No, that's a good one.
It's not gonna make it past the 10, but I mean, I had so much fun playing as. We'll get into it.
It's on my list. It's just at my personal top 10. It's just at the very bottom.
And also, it can get cluttered real fast. So
yeah,
we'll talk.
Yeah,
about
I'll say.
Kyle.
Squadrons. A lot going on in that game.
Different type of combat, but it's still really good at what it does.
Yeah, a lot going on in that game.
And by the way, if you've only played like the opening mission or 2 of Star Wars Squadrons, you don't really have a good feel for the combat because they unlock tons of ships for you that each control very differently. You can put different parts on there that totally change your
did you try it in VR since you got a VR headset?
I don't think you can play it on Oculus. I think that that's like you have to play it on a computer or PSVR.
Oh, so you need to be hooked up.
Okay. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, Superliminal is not there's no combat in that. It's like a walking sim type puzzle game, kind of like Call of the Sea.
Okay. Oh. I want to move.
Or Pedestrian. It's a puzzle game.
I want to move the Pathless over if mainly just because the only combat you do is the boss fights, and that's a blast. So I'll move it over just to at least talk about it. I do love
those are great. Yeah,
I love those.
Can
Dan,
you scroll up?
Yeah.
Because there was one I was thinking a second ago.
Same here, and then I lost it. Oh, there we go.
Oh, I want to move Mortal Shell over too, since we're doing 2 at a time.
Oh, that was the one I was gonna pick.
So
okay,
I've put in 3 or 4 hours into Mortal Shell. Not a ton, but it's still actively installed. It's still a game that I consider that I'm playing right now. The combat's really good.
I will do Resident Evil 3.
Okay. Derek, sorry I took Mortal
Neo 2.
Yes. Yeah. Yep. Jeff.
Hades.
Yeah, I was surprised nobody moved that over sooner.
I want to pick like 4 more. Jeez.
I'm running out of. You might have to take my pick things. I'm running out of picks here.
Maybe condense.
Yeah,
if possible, Timothy.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anything jump out at you?
Just kidding.
No, nothing jumping out. Y'all take my.
I'm gonna move Doom Eternal over because the fact that game isn't gonna win our best game of the year. Spoiler alert, it's just not. But I do think the combat in that the combat the combat in Doom Eternal is just as good as it's ever been. Maybe a little bit better than the
shit game, but likes Greedfall.
Move Greedfall over.
Wow.
Along
Why
with
did you remind him about
Godfall?
Don't remind him about Godfall, please.
Actually, I don't. Look, I was gonna say this. I just played Godfall the last couple of days. Like I went back to it. It's a good, like, it's fun, but the camera and combat are not as smooth as I feel like it should be for that type of game. So I actually would say no to moving that one over.
Yeah. I think, again, it's a very different style of combat, but I want to move Gears Tactics over because I think it's fun. And it might not make the list, but it's good.
I bet you if one of us played Half-Life Alyx, we'd probably be moving that over.
Probably. Kyle, go play it real quick with your new Oculus.
I don't even know if that's on the Oculus. Yeah.
He's got to plug it in.
Dang.
Plug it in.
All right.
It's only I can play it, and I'm not buying it.
I would move Ghost Runner over, but there's really not much in terms of combat. I mean, yes, you swing a sword, but it's more about the sword swinging is almost like super hot because you just want to do quick one-hit kills and not get hit as you make your way through levels. So I don't think the combat, quote-unquote combat, is all that amazing. So
I'm not going to win, but I'm going to vote just because I like it. Hyrule Warriors.
Yeah,
it's a lot of fun.
It's fun. Yeah. I really like, I don't know about moving it over, but yeah, Man-Eater's a good one. There's no combat like that, dude. Like in Zero games, there's...
Dude, when you can chomp down on something and then use the stick to shake it back and forth, it's just awesome.
Yeah,
should have mentioned that too. I started playing that also. It's pretty silly.
Yeah, it's silly fun. Yeah.
I really like the combat in Neon Abyss and Hunt Down, but I don't know about moving them over.
Can we move over Ori and the Will of the Wisp?
Yes. Oh, I forgot about that one. I do like the combat in that a lot. It's like right away you can tell there's going to be different combat because they give you like a melee attack, like a sword style attack that was not present in the first one. So yeah, I liked it a lot. Paper Mario, anybody?
No.
Wasn't that one of the
guys who
that
played
was
it
probably my negative for it.
I actually have Pistol Whip downloading right now because I hear that's such a good VR game. So I wish I had something to say about that, but I have it just downloading. I haven't played it. Yeah.
I would say Super Hot if it weren't more of the same, but it's just extra
exactly
levels.
The same.
Yeah.
But it is still mind bending, and there's new upgrades now, which is fun. But the combat is still what it was before.
Nothing's really changed. Yeah.
I think Streets of Rage 4 combat's amazing. They actually add some intricacy to the beat 'em up that I didn't expect, and it still is just fun to button mash. I'm gonna move it over. Don't know if you guys like it as much as I do.
Well, in that case, let's put Battletoads in there.
Battletoads.
Because they're the same game.
They're so not.
I know.
Let's see. Spellbreak was kind of fun. I played it with my kids a little bit.
Yeah, I actually did enjoy that.
Kind of a fun little battle royale thing.
Did anybody play the Falconeer? It actually looked cool, especially you guys who are praising
Pathless.
The Star Wars game. No, Falconeer is a flight
X, though, right?
Flight game.
I couldn't find it on PC and stuff.
Yeah, it's an Xbox exclusive.
Right.
I know they don't have those, but it is.
All right, we're leaving off stuff like Torchlight, Trials of Mana.
I wanted to shout out how smooth Black Ops Cold War feels to play, but it's just a better version of what COD already does. So, just wanted to shout that out.
That's been perfected for years now.
Every entry just keeps getting like more smooth of an experience.
Sure.
I'm not bringing over 13 Sentinels. I am playing this game now because after last week I whined that it's
the combat's not great.
That it's not on sale last week, and then I looked and it was $30 on the PSN store, so I grabbed it. It is really fun. I'll talk about it some more in a different category. But the combat is so disappointing, in my opinion. So
yeah.
Anyway,
can somebody tell me what it is? I haven't even bothered playing it.
The combat is a little bit turn-based tower defense, but it's all like dot oriented. Like it's like
there's no animation, which is like why you play RPG.
The only animation you see is in the attack selection window. You can kind of see what it would look like, but they don't show it to you. It's just your dots and their dots, and you're facing off.
It's not great. The
game's just been more praised for the story and sort of the look of it, and
Yeah. Okay. That's where it's going to come up for me, is in the story, because the story is very cool. I think it's it. Darksiders Genesis combat was fun.
No, it was fun. I was going to say that was fun.
I'll move that over. I don't know if it'll make it, but I do like that combat. That's all I got. Crash Bandicoot doesn't really have combat. Sorry, Bob.
I like how we're not like putting EA Sports UFC in there. UFC isn't in there, even though that's like the whole basis of the game is combat. Because it's just
but I don't think any of us played it.
Yeah, that's true.
I didn't play it.
Hang on.
I don't know if that our opinion would change if we played it.
Punch and kick and grapple.
Yeah.
There you go. There's your summary.
And it's not. I mean, I've played past UFC games, and I know they've gotten better, but
it's not.
They're not the smoothest games to play.
No, I feel like you would have to dedicate. Like that'd be the only game you can play to like.
I'll
really
tell you the one I'm
games.
surprised you guys didn't mention, but maybe none of you have played it, is Other Side. That seems like it's the type of game all of you guys would like.
I don't know what that is.
Other Side.
You should look into it.
Okay.
It's
the Other Side,
something.
like okay, yeah.
I haven't even heard of it.
I was thinking of it it's in the list, but I was thinking of it as a like Other Side 2 words, but it's Other Side like homicide or suicide, but not it's Other Side.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nope.
I've been meaning to get that one.
To me, it's a Tim and Kyle game.
Nice.
That means that Derek thinks it's trash, but he's surprised we don't like it. Got it.
I actually almost bought it, but I was like, yeah, you only play it for 5 minutes and then be mad that you bought it.
Yeah. All right, well, we've got our first round done where we get to nominate whatever we want to have considered, and now we need to talk a little more in depth as we try to move those over into our top 10 list. And if we need to, we'll use kind of this intermediary narrow to 20 if we have to, but I don't think we'll need to. All right, so we'll go in reverse order of how we just nominated. We'll start with Kyle this time. What's one that you want to make sure makes the top 10? And if everyone agrees, you probably don't have to make a case for it just yet. You could probably just go for it.
I mean, I say we just bring over Tsushima because it's obviously going to be high, I imagine.
Any objection to that being top 10?
No. Well, I was going to say, how many do we have? Why don't we just we
have like 28.
Yeah, I was going to say try to cross off. Oh, are we going straight to round 3? Okay.
We are, unless there's disagreement, then we might drop them in this intermediary round.
Gotcha. Never mind.
Jeff, what do you think?
I mean, I know there's going to be argument that it's a lot of more of the same, but I really don't think it is. Miles Morales should be in the 10.
I don't think it's the same. I think it's better than.
Yeah, that's why I like it so much. That's why it's my favorite combat.
My issue with that game was the story, not the.
I love the story.
Villain.
Oh man,
we're not talking story. That's next week. That's next
Derek
week.
doesn't like emotions. Remember that.
Story's next week. Kyle and I haven't played it. Am I still right with that one, Kyle?
Yeah, I might try and sneak in some hours of that game before.
Dude, you guys
it's
will love the combat of it. You'll be like,
I really wanted to say
it starts off the same, but then they add more stuff into it as the game goes along, and you're like,
yeah,
whew, man, they really refined everything about the combat.
Pretty sure we're not getting a PS5 till 2023. Kyle.
Yeah, I know. So I'm just gonna play it now.
You and I have the worst luck. By the way, apparently there was an additional wave of them on Best Buy out of nowhere after that whole rush, and I totally missed it. And a bunch of
those jerks.
I'm just super mad.
I know. Well, there was a way that they didn't announce because they were trying to allow folks who were just basically not scalping it to get it.
All right, so I'll give you all a quick pro tip, and that is the next time you guys do a wave, or you're trying to get one, whatever site you're on, just leave it in your cart. Like even if
I can get it in the cart,
yeah, sometimes.
Yeah, but when I'm saying when you get it in the cart and then it says it's sold out, a lot of people empty the cart, leave it
Yeah.
in the cart, stay logged in. Then the next time they do a wave, it's already in there and you just check out. That's why it's selling out before you actually see it available, because they already have it in the cart.
Yep, makes sense. All right, so Derek. We're trying to do the obvious ones first.
Yeah, The Last of Us 2 is one of my
Yay.
No argument there. Any argument on that one to bring it over? Okay.
No.
Dan.
7
Do
remake, please.
Do your boy like that.
It's
7 remake, please.
It's one of my favorite combat systems. Any arguments that it should be top 10?
I think it's amazing. Yeah.
The combat is probably why I insisted on beating it like so quickly, because I was like, oh, it just feels so good to beat people up.
It sure does.
All right. This gets a little tougher. Oh boy. I would like to move Ori over.
I'm with you.
I think Ori is one of the best combat systems this year. Did you guys have any issues with that?
I didn't play enough of it. I only played the beginning, which is more like the first game in the beginning.
How?
I don't think it's like complicated, but it's just because the game is just so goddamn beautiful. It just helps make the combat just seem more like.
Yeah.
No,
it's
the
just really nice
combat
to
in
look
this
at. You know.
game is better than the first one, and the first one was already fun.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And I feel like games like Hades and stuff like that get complimented for the combat, yet people get so sucked into the looks of Ori that they don't even mention how much fun it is. It's one of my favorite. I don't even like platformers. It's one of the best games I've played.
Yeah, same here. All right, so we've got 5 that we've moved on kind of without too much argument to get it on the list at least. I'll just kind of open it up. If there's something else that you really want to fight for to move over, I'll let you speak up.
That's fair.
And that's coming from someone, Derek, who you didn't love the combat of this game.
I do now. I've figured out what I like.
So this one's pretty high on my personal list. Well, it's right in the middle of my top 10, my personal list.
Just put it in 10.
You guys all good with it?
Good combat, yeah.
Dan, not so much?
I mean, you put it in for now.
Yeah, I mean,
That's what she said.
Sure.
Oh my gosh. All right.
I wanted to
Not gonna
make
meet
sure.
you yet.
I wanted to make sure that. Where are we at?
You can just throw one in. I'm gonna vote Mortal Shell.
Oh, okay.
Oh, the sleeper hit.
Based on your description of that game, it actually does sound like it kind of deserves to be in here. Because I listened to the episode where you first started talking about it, and I would never play it because I don't like difficult games at all. But
actually, this is the one that I think if you want to try it, like wait for it to be like under $10.
Mm-hmm.
This is the easiest like Souls type game. Not because it's actually easy, it's because they leave everything open for you to upgrade your character before you even fight the first boss. So you could go into every boss fight OP.
Yeah.
You just have to explore. So that's what I did, and I destroyed the game.
I think Mortal Shell has got a fantastic combat system.
I love it. Don't let Sasan, who doesn't listen to our show, hear that. But
I want to throw Squadrons in there, honestly, because it's. I mean, even though it's all aerial, I think there's a lot of stuff that they added that I was very impressed by.
You guys are making me want to try this, and I refuse
awesome.
to buy it, even though I've seen it super cheap.
You have to like deflect your energy to like your boosters, your shields, or your lasers, and
like all that stuff they say in movies that you're like that's bull crap. No, they added it to this game.
Yeah, like the mechanics are so great in this game.
If you're not a person who enjoys dogfighting, like if you didn't like Star Fox 64, like if you don't like that style of combat, you might not like this too much. But if you like
I was obsessed with
then
Star Fox 64. Like I played it a ton, but that's like the last like game like that I've played. I don't genuinely get into those games.
It's as arcadey as
I think it's pretty arcadey, and you can set it to easier.
I would say, yeah.
Does anybody tell you to do a barrel roll? Because that's really all I care about.
You can do one. I don't know if anyone
directly,
but nobody like yells at you. That's the whole fun.
Not directly. I still think that
they yell at you, just maybe not about doing barrel rolls.
It's helpful too that as you're fighting, as you're in combat, there's a lot of communication going on, which is cool, and you are part of a bigger story between the two sides. So
to me, this is a game that I would, because I don't have the Quest 2, but I have the Quest. and then I have a PC. This is a game I should just buy on PC.
I think so.
Try it in VR.
I think Hades does need to come over. Here's the thing about Hades. It is, in a way, there's kind of this wave of hype that came along with this game as it came out, and I think mostly deserving. I think it's a really fantastic game. But I do think when it comes to just purely the combat, you have so many options at your disposal. Each weapon brings a very different play style to it. I think you could probably knock it for being a little repetitive at times. But as you move from area to area, it gives you a whole bunch of fresh types of enemies to fight against and areas to battle. I think it's great combat.
You could say the repetitive thing about basically any game, though. So
you could,
And I think there's enough weapons
just
in this game.
And stabbing, and that's it.
Yeah,
so
I think there's so many
really
weapons in this game that it actually is very fresh, And I think
the other thing is, there's rarely a game where I love using a shield, and this is one of them. So like they even make the shield fun. So
yeah.
So I'm gonna actually vote, and I know it's not gonna like easily come over, but I want Cyberpunk 2077.
That's fair. I expected it to be in the 10, but I just on it.
It can be low.
I was gonna say, because I was trying to look at what's left over and like what I've actually played. I personally find Resident Evil 3 more fun, but I mean I could see why maybe a couple of you might want to pick Cyberpunk over Resident Evil, but I just think Resident Evil feels really good to play. Like the combat in Cyberpunk could be a little like kind of choppy at times, Like Melee, for example, is not the best.
Yeah, but the reason why I like Cyberpunk is I'm not voting for it just for like gunplay and all that stuff. It's because it's just like you guys are moving over Yakuza and all that stuff. I think it plays really well for an RPG. Like it's got so many systems in the game that it's like if you want to go into a combat area and not even pull your gun out, you can do it.
Yeah, I did that.
Still combat.
You can make a build that way.
Yeah, you can take people down, and it's still combat, but you can do it in like different ways. So
this isn't best pacifist, Derek. It's best combat.
What's interesting is that
get rid of your Final Fantasy VII trash. Then
I've heard that about this game, that you can approach things anyway, and some people even call it like almost like building a magic build when you do some of the technical stuff.
Oh yeah.
I think that sounds really cool. That just hasn't been my experience with the game at all. I'm getting close to the end of it, and it pretty much to me plays like a mediocre shooter. Now I'm probably doing it wrong. I get that.
You're doing it wrong.
But they don't guide you to do it any other way. So that's where I struggle, is I'm just like, they haven't given me any kind of guidance to do this any differently. So I'm picking up some skills and stuff along the way, but for the most part, I'm not having that much fun with the combat. So that does not give me much motivation to try different things.
I guess. Are you using any like smart weapons?
Yeah.
That's what I love.
The weapons are cool.
Like, going in there, headshot.
I like the swords. I go in there and I slice people up, and like their arms fall off and their heads fall off, and it's just I think it's awesome.
Pieces of it are fun, but overall, as a combat system, I don't think it's one of the best 10 of the year. I actually put Marvel's Avengers above this one.
Oh, I hate Marvel. I thought it was.
Ouch.
So
I mean, the only thing with the combat
because they're all.
And I put Yakuza over it. I put Pathless over it.
I think Yakuza should definitely be over. So I defend Yakuza being on 10.
Yeah. The tricky thing with Marvel's Avengers is just it is a really nice looking game, but the combat is like it is repetitive. But again, that's subjective.
It's
like
fun.
some people might not think that, but it's like the enemies are sponges, and that's just annoying. Like I just feel like
I get that. Yeah,
it does get annoying.
Did any of you guys play Neo 2 at all?
Yeah. No. Yeah, I think Neo 2's got a fantastic combat system and needs to be considered. I will say this about Marvel's Avengers: once I unlocked Iron Man, the combat no longer became a challenge at all. I was able to float around and shoot everyone with my rockets from it. Like nothing was challenging at all anymore. So
I like Immortals more than like Marvels and stuff.
I do too. I like Immortals.
Immortals is fun.
Right now we've got 5 in this kind of maybe category, 3 that we moved over, but maybe they need to be replaced. We'll see. And then 6 that are, I think, pretty definite. So we've got, if we're only going to fill 10 spots, there's a lot to trim down here. Anything that's still over in this round 1 column: Battletoads, Darksiders, Gears, Genshin, Huntdown, Hyrule Warriors, Immortals, Maneater, Avengers, Neon Abyss, Spellbreak, Streets of Rage 4, The Pathless. Anything that any of you would say, I really need to fight for this to get on the list, or are these 5 and maybe these 8 worth fighting over?
I mean, I think Genshin is actually is very solid combat wise, but I don't think it's gonna make it like in the top 10. So
I like it. I think
agree that it's fun, but
it's the best free-to-play combat I've ever played.
I just think like Genshin, Hyrule, and Immortals are all fun, but it's like I feel like all of those games combat is in other games as well. Like they don't do anything.
They're a nice familiar
Hyrule
flavor
is
of
more
combat.
unique than the other ones, but I don't feel like it does anything.
I think Genshin, the Genshin elemental stuff is really cool.
The magic
I don't think
system is
enough
pretty cool
games do that too often, like to that extent, or to any extent, because it's usually you just kind of hit something and you try to find weaknesses. But I like kind of mixing in the element stuff, or like the ground setting on fire because you literally used a fire spell and that actually causes damage and the fire starts spreading, like that kind of stuff. But
yeah,
again, I don't think it's gonna make top 10. So
okay,
not for me.
We'll tell you what.
I would fight for Avengers, but I think some of the things in the combat are also its downfall, the game's downfall. Where it's just so easy for enemies to penetrate what you're trying to do.
Yeah,
it's like way too easy. It's like you're getting punched. How are you hitting me and breaking my combo? It doesn't make any sense.
Well, that's the RPG elements, right?
That is. Yeah. Avengers. I think we'll talk about it next week with story. I think it's got a fantastic story, especially the first half of it. And I like the way it wraps up as well. But I really, once it splits off into I'm sorry, but it's just idiotic mission structure. I really hate it. Just took me right out of the story. And I was like, how do you is there a button to just, go to the next important thing? I don't want to do these random the side missions weren't fun. Anyway, that's a different conversation.
Yeah, that's fair.
The combat did a lot for me initially. I thought a lot of it was really interesting and fun, but quickly wore down. And Dan, you're right. All these games can get repetitive. This one got not just repetitive, but I felt like I was hitting the same buttons over and over. Every encounter, I was kind of hitting the same things over and over. So I don't know. To me, it's fun combat, but not one of the 10 best. I don't think it goes over.
I didn't expect it to go over. I just wanted to give it a shout out. Also, Kate Bishop is really fun to play as. I did play some of that DLC.
They just released that one, right? That add-on?
Like last month or something like that.
When's Spider-Man coming to PS4?
Oh, God.
Never.
Who knows if they're even going to be able to continue.
Yeah. Right. Probably got pushed back because of sort of like the rollout of them trying to kind of do some changes. So
you have to prove that you don't have an Xbox Live Gold account to get access to it. That's how they're going to do it. Okay. Just kidding. All right. So it's kind of how do you guys feel about these three being locks, or do you want to put them up against some of these 5? Mortal Shell, Star Wars Squadrons, and Hades. Are they locks on the list along with these other 6?
Well, it's tricky for me. I haven't played any of those 3, so I can't say.
Oh, you haven't? Okay.
No.
Okay.
I haven't played Mortal Shell either, so I can't speak to that one.
Here's what I'll say about Mortal Shell. I think it's got a really good combat system. I highly recommend folks check it out, especially for like Dark Souls games.
Yeah, I do.
Actually, I think parts of it, Derek's going to hate me for saying this because I don't think he liked this game. I get some Ashen vibes as well. And I know Ashen is just another Souls-like game. I get that. But it plays very differently. And so as I'm approaching certain enemies, certain weapon types they use, the timing of the dodging felt very much like Ashen to me, if you liked that game too. But so I like it a lot, but it's actually not that high on my list. I just think it's a really good combat system. I haven't played it all the way through. Derek, I think, beat it, so he could speak to this. I don't know if it has that much depth that by the end of the game, it still feels like a great combat system, or if it really just comes down to dodging at the proper time and then attacking.
No, I actually think it's one of my favorites. There's a lot it's everything's unique. You have multiple armor sets you can unlock.
The hardened skill is really interesting too. The hardened,
and then you have the hardened skill, which actually changes. To me, that's the most unique part. Is for those who haven't played it, and I won't go into it too deep, but like when you're playing like a Souls type game, most of the time you block. This system is like built in to like encourage you to be more offensive. So meaning like I can go into a jump attack. And then in the middle of my jump attack, I can harden. So I actually freeze in the air doing my jump attack. Then the enemy gets caught, like basically rebuttaling to my attack, and they hit my hardened shell, and then they bounce off, and then my attack then goes back into motion. I unharden and I hit them. So there's a lot of like strategy to make you be more offensive while you're playing a Souls type game. Plus, like I said, I think there's 4 armor sets you can unlock that you can upgrade. They all have upgrades. And then you have 4 different weapons that you unlock as well and that you can upgrade. So to me, it's one of the best. I beat the game and then I started a second playthrough and I'm like halfway through it. I rate it really high.
I do like it a lot. And so at least it's not just Derek.
I like it more than Neo 2. Like, I understand objectively most people like Neo 2 more, but I find Neo 2 to be like, I don't know. I feel like I'm swinging and I can't tell what the hell's going on. Like, everything's so fast and there's so many enemies coming at you and the world's always like black and white, which I absolutely hate for most of the time. And so it gets more confusing. So the reason I bring that up is I think those 2 types of games are very similar, and I would rate Mortal Shell higher.
Okay.
I think it comes down to Cyberpunk or Yakuza, right, for that 10th spot, probably.
Probably. I mean,
yeah.
The reason I didn't like Doom Eternal is not only, which I would consider it part of the gameplay. I know this is combat, but like, I hate the jumping and bull crap. But I also hate the fact that I almost feel like I'm playing freaking Zelda, where I'm constantly having to switch weapons because I'm always out of ammo. Like, it's like and I'm moving the entire time. And I just went back and played this game. Like, I just started it up like a day or 2 ago, and I was like, the whole time cussing, like, I hate you. You're just a dumb game. Like, I hate you. You're not fun. Everything you did right in 2016, you're like, hey, let's be really cool and change it. And you just made it stupid. So I hate that game.
So I do kind of like
combat.
I like the swinging around during combat and stuff, but it just maybe you just kind of nailed it. Maybe it's the lack of ammo. I don't know what it is, but something about it, I didn't get that same adrenaline rush and satisfaction that I got out of the 2016 version. I don't know exactly what it is. It feels very similar. Maybe that's what it is.
I feel
Maybe
less badass, to be honest with you. There are, of course, enemies that you can one-shot them and then go up to them and melee them. Yeah. But for the most part, there's a lot of difficult enemies, and you don't have a lot of ammo. And you're just constantly just running around trying to find ammo or switching weapons, and I just did not have fun with it. And I put in
I think
probably
that one's
7 or 8 hours.
I think that one's staying off the list. Neo 2, I'm with you that Neo 2 and Mortal Shell are good to compare, and I'd defer to you on that one, Derek, because you've played both of them more than I have. I played Mortal Shell more recently, and so in my mind, I think I like that more. So I'm okay with leaving that one.
I mean, I would say my opinion could change when Neo 2 gets its PS5 update, because I plan on jumping back in. But
it's very good.
Now, Mortal Shell, maybe it's just like Jeff said, I'm self-aware. I latch on to average games, and I'm like, it's so good. And
did I say that? Because that's incredibly accurate.
It's very accurate.
We need to grab that clip and just play
accurate.
Yeah. So I'm not that far into Yakuza Like a Dragon, but I'm far enough where I've got multiple party members, and I'm really getting used to the combat and how it can really flow, and you can chain attacks. And it's, at first I thought like, wow, this is a poor man's Persona combat system. This is pretty bad. That's just because the game it takes forever to get going.
It does. It takes hours to
you
get a full party.
Thankfully the story is compelling and interesting and funny, and there's lots of interesting stuff there. So anyway, all that to say, the combat, now that it's picking up some steam, I'm having a lot of fun with it. So
have you started getting summons yet?
No, I haven't even gotten those yet.
Well, I mean, those are so wacky. You can summon crawfish that like pinch under people's noses, and like they cartoonishly fall back.
I will say that I just stumbled across a side mission opportunity where they want me to stop this guy from peeing in the river, and
what the hell?
They keep using all these references. This is not about combat at all, but I just played this today.
Yeah.
And every reference in that whole conversation sounds like they're talking about pee. Like, we just need to find a golden opportunity.
Yeah. They layered them on,
Yeah. It's really funny.
When I hear people describe this game or things that happen in Yakuza stories, and some of them out loud, it sounds like dumb and bad. But
I know. I hear you, man.
It's kind of funny how they actually kind of pull it off.
They really toe the line of being completely wacky and absurd while telling a really melodramatic and serious story. It's the weirdest cornucopia of emotions.
The very first
and feelings.
action scene is you chasing down a guy who's trying to sell animal porn to people, and he's like, "What's the big deal? It's just animals doing it." You know?
That's how it starts. Yeah.
That's how it
Does
starts.
anybody want Resident Evil 3 to move over? Because then if nobody wants it to move over, it would be between Cyberpunk and Yakuza.
Yeah, because well, that's why I said that, because to me, I would pick Resident Evil 3, but I seem to be the only
For me,
one
it's between Resident Evil 3 and Cyberpunk. And I've played Yakuza. I haven't gotten as far as you guys, but it's you all know me. It's not my type.
Interesting. I played Resident Evil 3, haven't played Yakuza. Yakuza sounds way more interesting to me combat-wise.
I think Resident Evil 3's
combat do besides like make you have no? Isn't RE3 just like you have no bullets and big evil man's chasing you all the time?
It's the same as 2. I don't understand what the difference is.
Yeah, I mean what it does it well, but it is the same. It's like putting Call of Duty on here.
Yeah, we didn't though.
That's what I'm saying.
It kind of harkens a little bit more with like Resident Evil 4, where they did get a little bit more actiony with it, but there's still some like horror elements, because in 4 it's more just kind of like the amount of enemies coming at you and sort of like their intelligence. In 3, like again, it's a little bit more actiony, but there's still zombies, and then you have this maniac, chasing after you the whole time.
Just it's fun, but I don't think it's top 10. It doesn't do anything different. Especially, it does not do anything different from Resident Evil 2.
No, it does. It does, and it's a big step up from how 3 used to play. And like it's a major.
Well, yeah. Remake 2 and 3 definitely, because they're playing more like the newer style of third-person shooter and the newer style.
It's funny that we don't have Demon Souls in here, because to me that's one of the best feeling games too.
Okay, but it goes back yet again to the fact that is the same game from 2013. Unless you're telling me that the combat is now way different, way better, just like the visuals, we could make a case for it. Okay. But that's not a new game, unless you're saying.
I get what you're saying. It's different. I was thinking, well, Resident Evil 3 is a remake, but I get it. It doesn't play like Resident Evil 3. Resident Evil 3 the new Resident Evil 3 plays completely different from Resident Evil 3.
Kyle, which ones of these have you played?
All of them, yeah. I really do like Resident Evil 3. I think it feels so good, and it is a little more actiony. So the things that bogged you down about 2, 3, is a little more focused and a little more shooty and stuff.
So what about Cyberpunk versus RE3 for you, Kyle?
I mean, it'd be Cyberpunk for me, but again, everyone's playthrough is going to be different. So it's really hard to pitch this game, to people who just didn't I don't know, branch out outside of just shooting stuff. Which that game is so easy, just shooting your way out of any problem. I can see being the way a lot of people lean, to be honest. But yeah, if you really go out of your way, you can make some really incredible builds and have some really unique experiences with gameplay with Cyberpunk. So I would choose that over Resident Evil 3, but I would choose probably Yakuza over all 3 of these.
Personally. I was going to say, we should just go through everybody, and then from those 3 games, you pick your one, and we see who has the most votes.
So which one do you pick out of these 3, Kyle?
Yakuza.
Okay. Jeff, what about you? Have you played all 3 of these, and which one?
No, I haven't played Yakuza, but Cyberpunk would be the one I would go with, because it's just more fun. I mean, the combat's fun enough for me to keep going back to it and wanting to finish it, basically.
Yeah. So for me, it's going to be Yakuza.
All right. So 2 votes for Yakuza.
Yeah. Dan.
Resident Evil.
Well, I'm Cyberpunk, so it's 2-2.
I'll switch to Cyberpunk. I like Cyberpunk just as much.
Kyle,
move it along. I'm sorry, man. I'm all about Yakuza, but just.
I was gonna say the tiebreaker is gonna have to be the Metacritic, and Yakuza crushed Cyberpunk on the Metacritic.
Oh, so then go. No, dude. I was just gonna move things along. If you have a whole thing, divert to it.
If you listen, man, you're more than you're more than welcome to change your vote if you need to. It's fine.
No, I like that y'all have a tiebreaker.
Maybe I shouldn't say crushed it. Maybe it didn't crush it, but I'm pretty sure it's higher. Yeah, Yakuza got an 89.
Yeah.
Cyberpunk. Well, it's not. It's pretty close. So it's 86. So it's not. I thought it was crushed.
Yes, but we had a dead man vote for Cyberpunk, so it actually wins. Mail-in ballot.
Some guy who's 130 years old from Detroit. Yeah.
Mail-in ballot. All legit.
Well, we can move Cyberpunk over. Admittedly, I am not playing this game in a way that I probably would enjoy it a lot more. But here's my problem. Kyle just described it. Every situation I'm in, I'm able to get to the next part of the game by just shooting everybody. Because I do have those smart weapons, which are admittedly very cool, very stylish. It's very fun to.
Are they though? I had nothing but problems with those guns.
Yeah, I never
think,
used them
no,
either.
I think they're fun. I think they're fun. They've helped me a lot. I just honestly, I'm shooting my way out of every situation. I'm not finding even the need to do skills outside of like give me more damage from my weapons and give me more health so I can take more shots.
I almost wonder if the game wants you to play it on a higher difficulty to like stray people away from shooting your way through things.
Maybe I'm just playing.
Yeah, I don't know. Just an idea.
Well, I played it. Like the last third of the game was me just hacking, and I didn't fire a single shot.
Yeah.
So I mean, I went that route. I avoided melee, including weapons. Like I would say I played like maybe 5% of the combat with melee because I just was not. I mean, it was not smooth for me. The melee, I just had a hard time with it.
That makes sense. Well, we're gonna have Cyberpunk move over to the top 10. Yakuza, RE3, Doom, and Neo 2 not making the top 10, but there are honorable mentions for best combat of the year. So if that means anything to you.
Poor Bug Snacks. I'm just kidding.
Honorable.
Did anybody play that?
I tried it for.
Wait, are we talking about Bug Snacks?
Does Bug Snacks have combat? I don't even know.
I don't either.
Talking about Bug Snacks?
If anybody still goes in Beyond, Bug Snacks is the greatest game ever, apparently.
Oh my gosh. I'm so glad I never joined that group.
This is where the phrase try hard came from. It's folks who are trying so hard to be different that they say things like Bug Snacks, one of the best games of the year.
It's the new Viva Pinata. You know?
They try so hard to.
Sure, guys. That game's boring too.
They go beyond. Thank you. Yes, they do go beyond.
They do go beyond to try hard, yes.
All right, so
All right, this is when it's gonna get interesting right here.
It is. I have heard nothing but positive things so far, and it sounded like resounding enthusiasm for Last of Us Part 2 being up in that top echelon.
Like top half, yeah.
Yeah, definitely top half, probably top 3 is what I was hearing from everybody.
I would agree with that.
One.
Same thing with Ghost of Tsushima. I feel like these two were talked about as best combat systems. Am I missing that between us, the 5 of us? Obviously, not widely. Some people don't like those combat systems, but this is just for us.
Yeah.
Yeah. For me, they're top 2.
Yeah, same probably.
You'll hear me use cons against Tsushima that I don't actually think are cons, just for the sake of making this list, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, that's fine.
You know what I mean? Like I've heard people complain about certain things about Tsushima's combat that make me not want to put it in number 1.
If it's a valid point, I'll hear it. You know.
Yeah,
but if
I want to be able to lock on my enemy.
That's the thing. See, like that's the main
That's
complaint.
Still
I
my
hear.
thing.
It's not
I still play
like,
the game, and I still
I've never once thought about blocking on in that game, but that's just me.
I still.
All right,
want
so for me, I think Hades has one of the best combat systems of the year. So for me, Hades is in my top 3. But if no one else feels that strongly about it, we can leave it in the middle for now.
I thought it was okay, but it's not that fun to me.
Really, the combat? Okay, combat's
well, I think it's fun, but I just also think it was just okay. But
okay,
I also didn't play it probably as much as you did, probably.
Kyle or Dan, any thoughts on Hades?
I actually like Ori better, but maybe it's just because I like Ori as a game better.
I haven't played Hades, so yeah, I don't know.
Dan, what did you think about the Ori combat?
I mean, like I said earlier, it's like it doesn't do anything like complicated, but again, it's just the game is so beautiful that it lends like it sort of like adds points to the combat that makes it kind of like just more interesting. And when you're doing it, like kind of what you're seeing is just really kind of breathtaking. So because again, the game's gorgeous. So.
Stunning.
Yeah. Stunning and brave. Ori is very brave, and the game is very stunning.
I wish I got far enough to see the greatness in combat that I'm hearing about. But I guess
Ori? Well, because Ori is all about like unlocking new abilities. So they constantly change not only the platforming, but your combat and like how more powerful you are and the moves.
I mean, by the end, you're bouncing all around the screen, attacking in all kinds of different ways, and it
gets really complicated.
Yeah.
Like I found some of the parts to be very frustrating because you have so many, I don't want to say systems, but so many things thrown at you, like skills and all this stuff, and they make you utilize them. That's one of the things. Like certain games, like even Cyberpunk, you could use this argument against it. Like Cyberpunk has all these options, but they don't force you to utilize them. Ori, they throw everything at you, and then they're like, "Oh, but you got to go do it." What? You have to do it. Like if you don't do it, you can't move forward. So like,
It's true. If you don't use it, you actually can't get out of the area where you got to get that skill in the first place. So you better.
Exactly.
Dan, tell me about Spider-Man Miles Morales, because I already heard from Jeff and Derek. What were your thoughts on the combat system here?
That's funny. That's literally what I was just thinking just now, because I was kind of making a list in my head, and personally, for me, out of all these games, I think Miles Morales has the best combat.
Okay, great.
Out of all of them.
So you want to make the case for it, or is it just kind of self-evident?
I mean,
yeah, it's more Spider-Man and it's better.
Well, so yeah, more Spider-Man, but better. It's just it visually when you're doing the combat. Like when I'm playing that game, I just have a smirk on my face when I'm fighting the whole time, because it just
for
looks
me,
so cool.
Miles' special moves, like his electricity moves, are fun to pull off.
But I'm just saying the acrobatics, like the nimbleness of Spider-Man and the acrobatics and the way he kind of like will jump off someone, and then you're kicking somebody, and then you're kind of webbing them onto a wall, and you're just doing all of these moves and you're chaining them together. It's like you're freestyling in your head, like, because there's just so much chaos going on. I can't imagine when someone's playing that they're like, all right, I'm gonna plan doing this move and then this move. It's just you're just kind of going with it, with the flow.
It's funny. I went from Miles, which I love. I mean, I love the first Spider-Man too. I went from Miles to playing the Spider-Man 2018, and the combat is more repetitive and sometimes frustrating in 2018. And I didn't experience any. I mean, granted, it's a shorter game. I didn't experience any of that with Miles Morales. Like I almost couldn't wait to get in the combat situations.
Yeah.
You guys got me sold. This sounds like a top 3 game to me.
And it's just like when you have like when you're doing those challenges where there's just like a bunch of dudes coming at you, it's just again it's just kind of like the flow of it, like figuring like what move are you going to do in that moment and how does it look, and it just always looks really cool. It just constantly looks cool.
They went out of their way to make him, because he's a newbie at being Spider-Man, they went out of their way to animate him less smooth than Peter Parker.
Yeah, when
he's fighting, it's kind of like he's kind of like figuring it out on the fly a little bit too. So that kind of goes into my opinion of the combat as well.
His overall motion is that of like an amateur-ish Spider-Man, because even when he's web slinging, it's a little not like sloppy, but it's just kind of a little more all over the place. He's not as graceful as Peter, right? Because Peter
that adds a lot of personality to it. I love that.
Because Peter's been Spider-Man for what, like 10 years in this game, like around 10 years or so.
Yeah,
like,
he's a vet at this point.
Yeah, so like
10 years.
Yeah, it's just there's more finesse when he's doing things as opposed to Miles, but.
Miles has that venom and the invisibility. Ooh,
yeah,
that adds so much fun factor to the combat. Like I just felt OP in every scenario, and it was so much fun. Even though they do throw bosses at you and stuff that are way more challenging, or they can be. Just difficulty level.
For me, like combat, when I'm thinking best combat is it fun, and if it is, does it also look really cool when I'm doing like all of my moves and when I'm fighting enemies? And for me, this checks off both things. So I think Spider-Man has the best combat.
So Derek, 2 quick questions for you, since you've played both of these.
No.
Spider-Man versus Ghost, and I know you like the combat in both, so this isn't saying that you think one of them is bad. I know you like them both, but is the lack of a lock-on in Ghost of Tsushima enough that you would say, no, the Miles Morales combat's better? Or
no,
like, what do you think?
Miles Morales should be like not even top 3. Like I know those 2 love it, and you 2 haven't played it. Okay. So my opinion is it needs to be in the top 10, but it should be lower.
We'll come back to that, because I want to ask you about this too, because you had some good takes on Mortal Shell, and you came around on Valhalla. I'm curious where you land between these 2, Assassin's Creed Valhalla and Mortal Shell, and then Kyle, I want you to weigh in on Cyberpunk and Final Fantasy after that. So what do you think, Derek, on Assassin's Creed and Mortal Shell?
I'm gonna give the edge to Valhalla just for like fun factor, because you're constantly unlocking skills in that game, and I know people had a problem with how they did the like skill tree and everything, but honestly I didn't find it to be confusing, and I do actually see my character getting better, so I don't understand those complaints. But anyways, for me, I think what made me turn on Valhalla like in a positive way was basically my weapon set. I was using a hammer, which I thought was trash, but it was my highest, powered weapon. But once I started using a greatsword, and I was actually at one point dual wielding great swords, But then I switched to, I unlocked, the little black kid the market where you can buy weapons from him.
Yeah.
I ended up buying like a high level dagger. So my left hand is a dagger and my right hand is a long sword or a great sword.
Interesting.
So I just sit there and stab real fast, and then I start, beating the hell out of him with my long sword. So it's just become extremely fun. It's very offensive. And as you get deeper in the game, you face obviously harder enemies that you can't use the same tactic over and over. You can at some points. You do still face like easy enemies, but once you start facing some of these harder guys, especially the ones with like thick shields and stuff, I can't just run up to them and be like, I'm just going to stab you with my dagger. They just deflect everything and actually stun me. So I would say Valhalla. I think Mortal Shell is amazing. I already praised it, but as far as I'm getting more into fun factor with this combat over just whether it's tighter or better, and I would say Valhalla is fun.
All right, because I agree with you on that one. I was curious what you thought, so I do think Valhalla gets the lead over Mortal Shell for me too, from what I've played of Mortal Shell.
Just throw in there, I think Valhalla is more fun than Miles Morales. Yes, I'm gonna say it.
I haven't played Spider-Man, but I loved Spider-Man 2018, and even thinking of a better version of that, even stylistically, whatever, I still like Valhalla more too. But we'll come to that in a second. Kyle, and then Dan, I want your opinion on this too. Cyberpunk versus Final Fantasy VII Remake.
Final Fantasy above Cyberpunk for sure, and I think Final Fantasy should be in the top 2 personally.
Yep. I don't know about top 2, but I would definitely put it in the top like 3 or 4.
Top 2 I'll take
you know
any
what
of
I mean?
that.
I mean, we're talking splitting hairs, but yeah, it should definitely be in the top.
So I'll just throw out there why I think I agree with Kyle why it should be top 2 is that like with 7 Remake, so obviously a bunch of people, before coming out, like, turn-based only purists and blah blah blah. So for what it does, like action type of combat, it's not totally leaning in one direction. Like it is actually still a turn-based game. You have an ATB meter. There are certain abilities and like magic and various things that you can't even do unless you're doing your basic attacks, building up that meter, then using the meter to unleash those other additional attacks to get through tougher enemies, because you can't just hit square over and over and beat those tougher enemies. So there is a bit of strategy there, which
and swapping between characters, which is super helpful.
Yes.
Because there's also
chain between allies like that. Oh man,
there's also the stagger meter, which is important because you need to fill out the stagger meter also with tougher enemies, especially in order to deplete their health even faster to beat them. So. There's that also, and like switching to Tifa, because Tifa has a couple of things where like she really just like racks up the stagger meter like super fast if you're chaining these certain attacks together. So like that's super helpful. And if you just don't have her in her party, then you have to switch up your strategy and do things a bit differently. So
Derek was pretty staggered when he met Tifa too. So.
I mean, who isn't really? I mean,
I was into the other chick more. I forgot her name.
You like Aerith?
The annoying Aerith?
Aerith is
She's
annoying.
Fine.
The
one that
Jesse.
I know what you're talking about. The girl in the blue.
You like Jesse?
You mean the one that was all over Cloud's testes? You like that one? The one that
they all were technically.
Yeah. Well, yeah,
definitely
I'm
a hair
always
situation going on.
I'm into girls who just like praise me. So yeah, Jesse would have been that way with me.
Anyways, I just think it's a good balance between the two.
Yeah, I think 7 Remake is, it's in my top 3 personally for combat systems. I think it's just a brilliant mix of action and also the ability to pause and plan out your strategy at times. And it's really great. And it wasn't until I really started actively swapping between my teammates, my other party members, not only did I feel like they became more active, because in my mind when I first started playing, it was like, well, I'm Cloud. Obviously, I'm just going to stick with Cloud. They can do whatever they want to do. That's not a good way to play the game. You're actually not going to be successful either.
Right.
Also, in the last couple chapters of the game, as party members get divided up for various reasons, and you have to kind of jump from party to party, now you have to use combos of folks that you normally wouldn't probably put in your party to play with. And I thought that was cool too, because some of them are more challenging because I didn't really use them much. I died a couple times. I had to rethink how to play and how to swap between them. So I just found that game to be a blast to play with combat. Even when I was struggling, it was like, hey, I have to figure this out. And when I did, it was very, very satisfying. This to me is top 3. Again, haven't played Spider-Man. To me, this one is just above Valhalla on my personal experience. So I think it should be in that top section, whether it goes to 3 or not, or 2 or whatever.
We haven't even mentioned materia. I mean, like, you literally can go into a combat scenario and be like, oh shoot, I wish I had this materia, and like, because the enemy's weak against lightning, for example, and if you don't have that, you're like, oh well, now this is gonna maybe take a bit longer because I don't have sort of that super effective move or ability or magic or whatever in order to.
I know that was just a random example, but if you don't have lightning on you at all times, then you're playing it wrong.
I mean, that's the thing, because then there are enemies that are weak against ice, and it's like, shoot, I don't have ice. Like, it's, you know.
Yeah. So. Yeah, I make sure to equip like all the elements on all three people I got. Yeah.
All right. Well, Jeff, you just helped make a case for Spider-Man as well.
Yeah.
Where do you rank these two?
Even though Dan and I feel very, very passionately about Miles Morales, I mean, I really don't think it should go below 5, in my opinion. Even Derek is more lukewarm on it, and you and Kyle don't have an opinion on it yet because you haven't played it.
I only do because I know, despite what you guys are saying, I believe you that it's better. I firmly believe it's going to be very similar to the 2018 one, which I thought was very good, not the best. I thought it was very, very good.
Whoa, what do you mean?
I think it's gonna surprise you.
The 2018 Spider-Man game,
dude, that game is unbelievably fun.
Yeah, that game is great. But do I think the combat system is? No, I had some of the same issues you described, Jeff. Where there are moments when either the enemy I was locked onto, the way moves were being carried out or not.
Yeah, I had quite a few camera issues with that one.
Yeah, camera issues. I didn't have the smoothest combat experience there, although overall I did enjoy it. That's why I said it's very good, but it wasn't. It would not make my top 5 in this case. So if you're saying Miles Morales is at that and then even better,
yeah,
all right, I can hear you.
I feel
like
they fixed a lot of issues with that.
I can hear you out for a 4th or 5th place. I have trouble putting it behind.
To me, it's 5th. I agree. I'm fine with what Jeff said. Where like I don't want it any lower than 5. I would put Valhalla ahead of it, so Spider-Man would fall to 5 for me.
Kyle, I might have missed it. What are your feelings on Valhalla?
I'm not a big fan of the combat personally. Ooh. I think the game's more just like kind of a dopamine checklist thing for me, where I'm like, oh, and the Vikings kind of like fantasy.
Oh yeah,
thing.
That's true. You do like that.
So I do. I enjoy just being in that world and like doing like the missions, and I do enjoy some of the story bits and stuff like that. But like the combat's just like Assassin's Creed schlock to me. So
yeah, fair. Did you like Odyssey or Origins combat?
Yeah, I mean, I like all these combats. I don't love them, though. You know, and I think they're all kind of similar to me, especially these last two, Odyssey and Valhalla.
Okay.
Top 5 for sure. I mean, I'm not going to fight against that, but, you know, I don't know. The idea of a Spider-Man game that plays better, because I love the combat in the 2018 Spider-Man. So if it gets better in that, like, sign me all the way up.
All right. Jeff, when you look at Star Wars Squadrons, and I guess to you too, Kyle, you guys both played this, right?
Yeah.
Where do you guys feel it should go in relation to these 3 games above it? Cyberpunk.
How do you even compare these types of things?
It's so different. This is the one that's like the most different. I know. Next to like Ori and Hades, which are.
I mean, I wouldn't hate it being at 6, just because like if you like dogfighting games, like this is the best dogfighting game to come out in a long time.
Yeah.
I think that's a pretty honest opinion.
I have no problem putting it above Cyberpunk or Ori just for combat.
Yep.
I still think Hades deserves more love than it's getting. I think it's an amazing combat system.
I like Hades' combat. Yeah, I don't know if it should be top 5, but I don't know if it should be in the lower 10 of the list.
Like right now, I would put where we're looking right now is Hades probably is going to land at 6 because I'd want to move Mortal Shell down 1 to put Hades above it. But if you guys still want to keep making a strong case for Cyberpunk's combat to be really high, I'll hear you out. I still struggle to see how that's one of the best combat systems of the year because it's got a lot of options. If this were an award for most combat options of the year, Cyberpunk should probably win that.
Yeah,
but overall best combat, I don't know. They don't really.
The game wants you to RP, you know. So
it's also the execution of those options that you have to weigh in as well, because I feel like it wasn't not all options are
because shooting is a major component of the combat, and I don't think it's the best shooting experience of the year. And hacking is a big part of it, of course. I gotta be honest.
Hacking is great. I like the hacking.
Okay, but I still enjoyed the hacking in something like Watch Dogs even more. I'm sorry, I just did.
Oh,
And
no.
so I thought the hacking I don't think the hacking's all that
The
fun.
game that didn't even make round one.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. Like, I don't think they executed all that amazingly on any one aspect of the combat. It's just cool that they have a wide variety available to you. So that's a good case to make for it, I think. That's why it's in the top 10.
I don't mind Cyberpunk being 10 or 9.
Yeah,
Like,
I was gonna say
just because it's so specific of how you play it, like no one's gonna be able to tell anybody how you didn't have fun.
Like
well, I did. Yeah, I don't know.
It makes it seem like it's a bad thing, but the bottom line is it's a top 10 list, so that's still beating a bunch of other games.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I mean, considering the games that you put in the eligible category, holy moly, dude.
Yeah, agreed. So I'm actually okay with Mortal Shell being above Hades too. That's fine.
I'm surprised we haven't gone to Last of Us yet. That seems like an important one to discuss. But
we're gonna go to these top 3 next because I was just trying to narrow down. Are these the top? I think these are the top 3. I think these are the middle 4. We might swap Spider-Man and Assassin's Creed. It sounds like these are the bottom 3. Sorry, folks who are just listening. Here's what I'm describing. The top 3, we've got Last of Us Part 2, Ghost of Tsushima, and 7 Remake. Our middle section is Spider-Man, Valhalla, Mortal Shell, and Hades. And then the bottom 3 of the top 10 are Squadrons, Ori, and Cyberpunk. As far as I'm concerned,
like Ori should be higher, but
okay,
I'm okay with that.
Where would you put it?
I would put it above Hades and Mortal Shell.
Oh, you put it above Mortal Shell. Okay, all right.
Does anybody else feel that way?
I haven't played it, so I can't.
I haven't played Star Wars or Hades or Mortal Shell, so.
And I haven't played Mortal Shell either.
Do you even game?
Okay, so
too busy playing Genshin or whatever the trash.
Loved Ori's combat.
Sure.
I don't think it's better than Hades.
Not even on this list.
To me, it's kind of a wash between Mortal Shell, Star Wars Squadrons, and Ori. So I don't have a strong opinion about where those should land.
I don't either.
I feel like Hades is above all 3 of those, but
I do too. I'll back you up on that, Tim.
All right, so that's 2 votes for Hades. Is anybody going to vote for Ori with me?
Not over Hades, no.
Okay, so then Hades should be above Ori, and then Ori should be right below Hades.
Yeah, and then Mortal Shell and Star Wars.
I would have argued for Squadrons to be higher, but
I would too. But
I'm understanding the audience here. So
I also just happy it's on the 10.
same here. I didn't expect it to make it.
Me neither. I'm surprised someone even brought it over. I'm like,
I wouldn't. I might put it above Mortal Shell. It's a little bit of a wash with Mortal Shell, but I wouldn't put it above Hades or Ori. And that's just going off of pure fun factor. That's not like saying the intricacies of the combat aren't impressive. I just personally had a ton more fun with Hades and Ori than I did with Squadrons.
Right.
Probably just because
yeah, sure, that makes sense.
I just had more fun with those.
Fair.
Yeah.
So I think we got to vote for Valhalla versus.
So by default, I'm Valhalla. Oh, you guys.
Valhalla. It just seems kind of blasphemous to me to put it in front of Spider-Man. I'm gonna be honest with you. I just beat that game. I played 87 hours. Like that game is not fun to look at the combat. It's fine. I'm not offended by it. But like Spider-Man looks amazing when you're doing those moves. Like, and it's fun. Like
again, if it's anything better than the last game, without even playing it, I would probably choose this game over Valhalla.
I think Valhalla is cool because like you could literally run around with 2 shields. Like that's ridiculous.
Yeah,
and that's cool.
Options.
That's so dumb.
That's cool, but like it's not Spider-Man. Like
I'm just imagining it, and I'm like, that's so stupid.
So
you can't even throw him like Captain America. What's the point?
Are we split on this one or no?
I'm Valhalla.
So am I. But that's just based on my memory of Spider-Man. That's not me knowing Miles
Jeff
Morales.
And Dan are Spider-Man, and Kyle, even though he hasn't played it, but he's played 2018, he's saying he prefers Spider-Man. So I think Spider-Man has to be it.
So we're not split. Okay, so Spider-Man's in the 4th spot. Valhalla's 5th. Okay. That's fine with me. I'm sure when I play Miles Morales, I'll be like, yeah, you guys are right. That is a blast, and it's way better than 2018.
Maybe you like.
No, they're definitely dramatic. They're not right.
We're dramatic, really.
If it were more mediocre, Derek.
I'm going to change my vote again.
Guys,
Derek got under my skin.
Godfall should be ahead of Final Fantasy VII.
I bet
Spider-Man is too mainstream for Derek. It's got to be, something.
All right, so we've got 3 games at the top here that. I mean, we're coming up all Sony in 2020. It is what it is.
Ride your ponies, boys.
It's just the reality of it. Sorry, guys.
It's Last of Us Part 2, Ghost of Tsushima, and Final Fantasy VII Remake battling out for best combat system. my personal pick here is Ghost of Tsushima, and then second is Final Fantasy VII Remake, and those two are pretty close for me. And then Last of Us Part 2. And here's why. Again, it comes down to that fun factor. I think Ghost of Tsushima, yes, you can make an argument that it needs the lock-on system. And I think I probably would have enjoyed having that if they had it. But the fact that they didn't, I adjusted, and it didn't impact, I don't think, my gameplay or enjoyment at all. And when I died or got hurt real bad or almost died, I always knew it's because I messed up. So like I got that combat system. I thought it was super clean, super easy to understand, but hard to master. I just think it's a brilliant combat system. Everything from the standoffs at the beginning all the way to when you're surrounded by enemies and all the abilities that you get. It's like what Assassin's Creed wants to be with its combat and hasn't quite.
Yes, thank you.
Yes. So I thought it was a complete blast to play from a combat perspective. No matter what weapon you're using, whether you decide to go more stealth first and then overt, or just do the standoff and bash your way through.
Oh man, the standoffs are so rad.
Standoffs where you can
I just think it's the best combat system of the year, personally. So that's my number one.
That's totally fair, especially because the game is combat, whereas Last of Us 2 is far more varied than that.
Also, I jumped
because
off
the
my
combat
horse
story
and
driven.
stabbed a guy, which was amazing. That was
so. I'm different, and I'm not even gonna argue like, oh, the lock-in. That's not why The Last of Us wins for me. It's fun factor. Like, there's a reason I played the game back to back, and I'm waiting for the PS5 update so I can play a third playthrough, and I'll probably play a fourth and a fifth. Last of Us games for me are just fun to play. Like, I get the whole dramatic, like, they're not fun, they're unsettling and all that stuff. No, once you become OP, they're freaking fun. Like, they're even when you're not OP and you're just stealthing through and destroying these guys when you're at odds, that's fun to me. So for me, 1 is Last of Us, 2 is Ghost, and Final Fantasy, I'm not even going to give it a 3 because it shouldn't be in the top 3.
That's fine. You're just
negative
bad at the game. That's all.
Serious question. 18. Serious question. What don't you like about the Final Fantasy VII Remake combat outside of the fact that you like to make Dan upset?
Oh, specific. So no.
I actually don't. I didn't think it was terrible, but I just didn't have fun with it. Like, y'all know, like,
it's a better version of the Final Fantasy 15 combat, and you loved that.
No, Final Fantasy 15 was so much more fun.
Oh
so
my
much
god!
Fun,
I found
you need to reassess your fun meter.
The 15 does have. I do think it actually is fun combat.
I do
like the sword teleporting, but
Yeah. You guys, y'all are shitting on me, but 15 was fun.
No.
Well,
15 was
Derek likes more action-oriented combat. Derek,
but I don't think it's just action. I think it's also the world I'm in. Like, I know you could go, but that's not combat. Yeah, it is. Like, the freedom I had in Final Fantasy 15 in the combat area. And remember, I know that when you're in the story missions, it is more linear. But most of my combat experience in Final Fantasy 15 was in the open world. I was doing a lot of monster hunts and stuff like that. Final Fantasy 7, I felt like it was restrictive. I hated most of the boss battles. The normal battles were fine, but those were pretty easy. The actual boss battles, like the first couple were fun, but after that I was like, this is just like fighting that house. I was like, first of all, dumb boss battle. And second of all,
great throwback.
Was just not fun.
He just doesn't have the nostalgia. So.
It was a great throwback and a fun boss battle.
Also,
I hear what you're saying. It's not your favorite. I get
it. And this isn't meant as an insult. I think, Derek, you just don't like games that require a bit of strategy. I think you kind of like to just plow through things with a bit more of offense.
I like my games like I like my women.
Yes. Okay. Yes.
No strategy, just plowing.
God damn it. So I mean, and so in his defense, that's why those kind of things flow better for him. Like, because I could see why he likes 15 more than Remake. But I like the amalgamation of 7, where the strategy and like the mixture of different kind of elements. So,
yeah, that's fair. That's fair. Honestly, I don't see Final Fantasy VII Remake finishing above either of the other two, but I personally would put it at number 2. I have a feeling Dan's probably going to put it at 1, but
I mean, I would put it like it's very like it's super close. Like Ghost of Tsushima is unbelievably amazingly fun,
Yeah.
I just still like a little bit. Like again, I just like I like the actual raw role playing elements.
Yeah.
Of 7 because RPGs is my favorite genre. So
okay. Well, I think we need to come down to ordering it, and then we'll just score them based on how they're ordered. And I'll try to put the score over here. So basically, if it's your number 1 game, it gets 3 points. If it's your 2, it gets 2. If it's your 3, it gets 1. Derek, if I heard you correctly, it goes Last of Us Part 2, then Ghost of Tsushima. That's just like it's ordered right here. It's how you would score.
Yeah, but -18 on Final Fantasy 7, please.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we'll
nope, we're giving it 1. Sorry, Jeff. How would you rank these?
Ghost and well, because of the discussion that we had, and you guys reminded me, Final Fantasy 7, and then Last of Us Part 2. I didn't go into this debate thinking Last of Us would not be number 1, so I mean, you guys changed my mind.
Kyle, what would you pick? What would be your order?
Exactly the same as Jeff. He's right.
So you do Ghost number 1?
Yep, Ghost 1, Final Fantasy 2, Last of Us 3.
Not to mention the multiplayer in Tsushima and how perfectly that combat was executed, in my opinion.
If I'm doing my math wrong,
is,
let me know.
So
I think the math is right, but let me know if I'm doing the math wrong. I think I'm doing it right so far. Anyway.
Right.
Don't make me use my head.
Dan, how would you score this? Final Fantasy 1?
So I do 18 points for AIDS for Derek. I do 3 points basically backwards. Three, like 1, 2, 3. So 1 for Last of Us, 2 for Ghost, 3 for Remake.
Yeah. So I am Ghost of Tsushima number 1, Final Fantasy 7 number 2.
Good lord.
So stupid. Hey look, Derek. Last of Us got 7 points, like Final Fantasy 7, isn't it?
Oh man.
Yeah, how poetic. It rhymes.
Unbelievable.
All 3 of these I thought were a lot of fun. Here's the thing with Last of Us Part 2. Derek, you made a good point. It does matter what environment the game is in, what the gameplay is, like the overall environment that you're in. Last of Us Part 2, and we'll talk about this with the Game of the Year stuff, of course. It's one of the best games of the year, if not the best. We'll get there. It is a very depressing experience. And so doing the combat in that game, I didn't find it to
that's
be...
a good point, man.
I didn't find that to be like, boy, killing these people who are apparently named NPCs that are I'm making the other people cry. I don't know. Something about it. I didn't have quote unquote fun, but I did think the combat systems were fun and really well done.
Yeah.
I wanted to sneak through everything.
Yeah, if this were like if this were like on a technical level, it would be like, oh, easy, Last of Us number 1.
Yeah.
But like killing dogs and then hearing the owner go, Charlie, or something like, oh
I
my
would
god.
say like, there are active systems in place to make sure you're not having fun while shooting.
Or
and
if you kill the
game.
owner first and then you hear the dog go, and you're like, oh god, I can't do this.
Yeah.
Yet I still had fun.
I think that says more about your morality than the quality of the combat.
I did find their systems to be fun, but I actually really enjoyed, and it's the same reason why I like stuff like Hitman and stuff like that, because if I can patiently make my way through an entire area and not be spotted and only kill the people that I really need to, I don't know why I get such a sense of accomplishment for that. I know it's more difficult, and so for Last of Us Part 2, I actually didn't fight a ton unless I was really forced to, or if I really screwed up and didn't want to reload a checkpoint. So I liked it. But
the combat is like the vehicle to get you to the next point that is, at least for me, the more interesting aspect, which is the story and those elements and kind of seeing what's unfolding next. Like,
well, I feel like that adds weight to the combat.
I think it does.
Yeah,
but whatever, it's 3. It's a good position for it, I think.
So here's our top 10 games, top 10 combat for 2020. Number 10 is Cyberpunk, then Star Wars Squadrons, Mortal Shell, Ori and Will of the Wisps, Hades, Assassin's Creed Valhalla, Spider-Man Miles Morales, The Last of Us Part 2, Final Fantasy VII Remake, and Ghost of Tsushima. So there you go. There's our top 10 for that. I knew that category would be a tough one.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
All right. I know that's not all of your personal picks, but it is what it is. Okay, let's talk about the community pick for best combat.
Oh,
it really came down to 3 games.
Did they pick Fall Guys?
Probably.
idiots.
No,
definitely gonna have Doom Eternal on it.
Fall Guys wasn't even in this list.
No Fall Guys.
I'm making fun of
That's
last
funny.
episode.
I know, but it was funny that it is a combat kind of a game, and you could have.
So the top three in third, actually, I'll give you the top four just because this one finished in a distant fourth. Fourth place was Cyberpunk 2077. Third place was Ghost of Tsushima. Second place was Doom Eternal.
Oh, God.
And first place was Assassin's Creed Valhalla.
So do we just have one person voting from the group? Is Crash Bandicoot like really number one?
It's like 6, yeah.
I don't think Crash was on the list. It didn't get any votes, because Gaston would have voted for it. So
yeah,
it wasn't. I don't think that wasn't. Maybe it was an option. Gaston, good for you, Gaston, for not voting for it, even though it was on the list.
Casuals voting.
Yeah. So there you go. There's your. Let me turn off my share screen here real quick.
There's your incorrect list.
There you go. As voted by the people. Okay.
So what happens when you let people vote?
All right. You know what? I can keep sharing.
Yeah, it's a broken system.
I can
you
keep
can't let
sharing
people
my
vote
screen.
anymore.